A 14-point win will not put a smile on any fan of the Ohio State Buckeyes. And you know what? That also might cause you to wonder what happened? Why was the game so close? Well, I'll tell you today on Locked on Buckeyes.
You are Locked on Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked on Buckeyes for the Locked on Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is a Monday, November 7th in the year 2022, and I'd like to thank LinkedIn Jobs for being the official college football recruiting sponsor across the Locked on College Network. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. During today's episode, we will break down the struggles and surprises that we saw from Ohio State and its receivers on Saturday afternoon. You'll also hear my grade. You cannot wait to hear this for the Buckeyes' performance in their win over the Northwestern Wildcats. But before we get to any of that, the conditions for this game were abnormal. They were unlike any Ohio State football game that I can remember watching over the past few years. The game was played on grass instead of turf. The game was in Chicago, but it's known as the Windy City, and the wind was on full display. It was some rain in there. Really dead, dull pregame atmosphere. It didn't seem like either team really wanted to be there in pregame, but once the ball was kicked off after the opening coin toss, we quickly saw Northwestern, they wanted to play. They had a game plan. They were prepared, and the Buckeyes were simply going through the motions. In this game, we broke it down a little bit on Saturday after the game, but this is still astonishing to me. Northwestern had more total yards of offense than Ohio State. They had more first downs than Ohio State. They had one less rushing yard than Ohio State. Northwestern had more passing yards than Ohio State. Those things are astonishing to me. And then when you want to look at the time of possession, they dominated that. And in this game where Ohio State struggled to move the ball, yes, the windy conditions were a problem and a part of that. When Ohio State was determined, Ryan Day was determined to run his air raid offense and to pass the ball all over the yard. When there were probably 30 plus mile per hour wind gusts throughout the entire game, something was off. And even the running game, the offensive line was getting pushed off line of scrimmage. They weren't getting a push. It was really confusing to see guys like Paris Johnson Jr. and Matt Jones and even sometimes Luke Whippler not be able to get a push at all and to get dominated in the trenches. A guy who I have been calling to be RB1 for the Ohio State Buckeyes, Miyan Williams, who at one point was struggling to do anything on the field, found a way to get into the end zone twice, bounced one of them outside. He ended up going into the end zone and then going up a slight hill on the outside of the end zone at Northwestern's football field. Miyan Williams was huge for the offense because if I remember the game correctly, Stroud and the receivers, we'll talk more about this later, but they weren't connecting like you would think Stroud and Marvin Harrison Jr. or Emeka Egbuka or a Cade Stover, those guys would be connecting with each other. They were not connecting at all. The defense, it was really, really odd to see this defense show shades and similarities to the 2021 defense, which we all want to forget about because that was not fun football to watch. I'm an Indianapolis Colts fan. I watched the Colts go to New England and get beat, look really, really bad. The defense of the Colts was not the problem, but the defense of Ohio State was part of the problem this weekend. I see bad football from the Colts all the time, and I want to forget about it. That's exactly how I feel about the 2021 Ohio State Buckeyes defense. I want to forget about that as well. But Miyan Williams found a way when Trevion Henderson was hurt, didn't play, and Jackson Smith and Jigba didn't play once again. Cam Brown on defense missed another game. Miyan Williams was a featured back. There were no other running backs that Ryan Day was going to use in a rotation. No, Miyan was the guy. His vision was not always the best. He was dancing a little bit. He wasn't always doing the things that he knows he should do and he needs to do. But what did he do when they needed him to do it the most? Found a way to get into the end zone. On the other side of the ball, Tommy Eichenberg is a rock for this team, potentially going to be a future All-American. He's going to eclipse the 100 tackle mark in this season. I don't know the last time the Buckeyes had back-to-back 100 tackle guys in a season, with Ronnie Hickman having 100 last year. You're going to have to go back and look at that, look at the stats to see when the last time that actually happened, because it's going to happen this year. Barring any crazy injuries or Eichenberg getting hurt, Ike is going to go over 100 tackles. It's going to be the first time in a while Buckeyes have had back-to-back guys that have over 100 tackles in back-to-back seasons. Miyan Williams was huge for this team. The offensive line was struggled. The defense struggled. Situational play calling, especially when the situation you're dealing with all game long is the conditions, the windy conditions, the rain, the wet balls. Just everything about this game was abnormal and not normal, but Miyan Williams found a way to get to pay dirt a couple times, and it was fun to see him and celebrate with his team in this game when he did. There was also CJ Stroud who ran the ball. Egbuka had a rushing touchdown of his own, 2 carries, 21 rushing yards, a touchdown. Miyan Williams had 26 carries, a season high, maybe a career high for him, 111 rushing yards, 4.3 yards a pop, and 2 touchdowns. This might also be one of the weirdest games where the Buckeyes don't score a passing touchdown at all. All 3 touchdowns the Buckeyes scored in this game came on the ground. When things were weird, when things didn't go well, when coaching and personnel didn't make sense a lot of the times, Miyan Williams and the offensive line found a way to wear down Northwestern, and Miyan Williams got to the end zone not once, but twice. Miyan is my guy. You guys all know why, and I love seeing him celebrate when he gets into the end zone. You know what I also like to celebrate, and I am very fond of, is businesses finding easy and quick ways, free ways, to find candidates for their jobs. Their jobs that are hiring, and also the jobs that they want, that people want to go to. Well, LinkedIn Jobs helps people find candidates for their jobs fast and for free. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's really easy and also free to create a free job post on LinkedIn Jobs. Once you do that, add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your fine podcast. So I just went through briefly a few minutes ago the numbers, and not so much numbers breakdown, but how weird some of the numbers are when it comes at the conclusion of the game. Look at the stats. You're like, well, the final score 21-7, not a fun outcome when it comes to you're playing a team with only one win on the season. That win coming on the other side of the pond. They have not won a game inside the US of A since October of 2021. That is the Northwestern Wildcats. Yeah, you see where I'm going. Ohio State should blow this team out of the water, even in rainy, windy, abnormal conditions. The Wildcats of Northwestern had more first downs than Ohio State, more total yards than Ohio State, more passing yards than Ohio State, almost tied the Buckeyes for rushing yards in this game. It was really 207 to 206. That helps you understand how abnormal this game was. Also, when you add in the fact that CJ Stroud had more rushing yards than passing yards. Another way, via some numbers, that you can tell how weird this game was. Now, why was it that CJ Stroud was struggling in this way? One was a win. I'm not going to lie to you. These wins were gusty. You want to go outside and throw the football with your kids or with the boys when you were younger, you wouldn't pick a windy day. You wouldn't pick a day when you knew the wind was going to be moving and swirling and you get a little echo in your ear every now and then because it's just so windy. You don't do that. When do you go outside to play jackpot or 500 or whatever the game was that you played? You throw the ball up, back and forth, you try to catch it to get the points. Hey, man, it's a sunny day outside. It's not so windy. You go out there, you and your boys having fun. This was not a day to do something like that. Not at all. These are not conditions to even play golf. Wind, golf ball, golf club, those things don't mix. And for some reason, in windy conditions, when everybody knew going into the game, the conditions in the weather was going to be a factor. Not because it was going to be crazy cold in the Windy City, but because it's going to be windy. It's going to be a little wet. The Buckeyes offense is not meant and made to be played on grass. You're playing on grass on this day. People here at Northwestern, they don't cut their grass. It's a little bit higher, the grass, from a pre-game picture I saw from Tom Orr of the Buckeye Huddle. The pregame grass was not high. So you can't say, hey, it was wet, windy, and a high, and the grass was high. You can't use the grass part of it. But Ryan Day was determined. We talked about this a little bit in a snapshot and a quick segment, a quick moment on Saturday's postcast. If you didn't check that out, go back and do that. But I'm going to reiterate something once again. In these conditions, every coach knows you might have to adjust a little bit quicker, and you might have to change the scripted plays because what you scripted might not go with what the conditions of the game are. Just saying. But I looked out there way too many times and saw 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back, 11 personnel, and it never made sense. When your offensive line is getting blown off the ball, when you can't run stretch plays, when you can't run certain things, trying to run zone and things like that, when you guys can't even do anything, how about you just go back to an old school gap scheme, hat on a hat consistently? How about we just try that? Now there are trap plays Buckeyes are trying to run, and it works every now and then. Different concepts, things work. But Ryan Day is determined to consistently run his offense no matter how crazy the conditions are. It doesn't make sense. And that's part of the reason CJ Stroud only had 76 passing yards in this game. Partly that. Also, Egbuka dropped a touchdown. Cade Stover dropped the ball. Marvin Harrison Jr. got a target. I mean, also, give credit to Northwestern's DBs. Their experience that Sean McDonough mentioned, Sean McDonough and Todd Blackledge mentioned during the broadcast. This is not just your run-of-the-mill, everyday, easy type of secondary of a team that only has 1 win. No, these guys have been around a while. They're coached up by Pat Fitzgerald, who is a solid coach, who is a solid player, knows how to get his guys to prepare his guys for what's going to happen on the field. They're ready. Offense and defensively, while the Northwestern Wildcats in their wildcat formation on offense and misdirection, which the Buckeyes could not figure out, only gave up one touchdown, which is still a luxury in the game when you look like 2021 defense at times. Only giving up one touchdown, that's huge. But offensively, man, it just was weird. Receivers were not on the same page. Receivers are out here still wearing gloves when it's wet outside. That combination does not mix. You would think Brian Hartline and the offensive analyst and the other people that are out there that work with the receivers every day would say, take the gloves off, man. Now, granted, it's up to you to take the gloves off, but take the gloves off because you wearing gloves out here is not going to help you. That's partly why Stroud's completion percentage was so low. Go check it out. I don't want to tell you the number right now. Go check it out and then come back to the YouTube comment section to tell me more about what you thought about CJ Stroud's performance during the game against Northwestern. We also got to see CJ Stroud run in this game. Now, it's quite comical at times because Stroud running the ball, you could easily see he don't practice this. He's not out here running around and practice against a scout team. He's not doing this. Hey, how do I slide? Is it right foot first or left foot first? Is the knee down all the way or is my knee up and my left leg is down? Does my backside get to the ground? Does it stay off the ground? How do I do this to slide and to get up properly and quickly to get back to the line of scrimmage to run maybe a tempo offense? How do I do this? Now I'm being a little sarcastic, kind of, but when I saw CJ Stroud run, you could tell he don't do this all the time. He doesn't practice it. Also, he should practice it. He should get used to it. I've been saying it for a couple years with Ryan Day, said it with Justin Fields when Fields was there. I personally don't believe Ryan Day coaches and wants his quarterbacks to run the ball. And ultimately, when you do that, you say, hey, stay behind the line of scrimmage. Don't run the ball. Don't do all of your skill set. Don't do everything. Ultimately, you might be hurting your own players and the own team and the offense because the offense can't be all it could be if your quarterback who can run the ball is not doing so. Got a phone call during the game. I'm going to close up shop here with this little comment. Got a call during the game, and I don't take everybody's phone calls during games, but there are some that I will. And this call came in, and this person was talking about CJ Stroud, him running the ball, and I had to remind them, Stroud's first touchdown of his career was a 50-plus yard rushing touchdown against Michigan State in 2020. So we all think about how Stroud doesn't run. We know that he can run. We know if in a read option situation, that was a backup role. Fields came out. Michigan State was trash in 2020. First year under Mel Tucker. Got there in February. Couldn't get his guys right. Couldn't even practice properly due to the COVID restrictions and the guidelines that were set forth by the Big Ten and Michigan State University. I get all of those things. But in that moment, we saw Stroud can run. And then when he becomes QB1, it's like he can't. He can. I still believe and will always believe he's being coached not to do that thing. Once the reins get taken off and once Stroud is doing all the things he can do and uses all the tools in his bag, Stroud, who is still the betting favorite, I believe, to win the Heisman, still baffling to me. He's good, but he has not been playing the best football after the bye week. Hey, if this is the case, let him start running. Let him start using his legs and his arm in the ways that he knows how. Hey, Stroud might be not just QB1 at Ohio State, might not just be the first overall pick in next year's NFL draft. He might be the first Ohio State Buckeye Heisman Trophy winner since Troy Smith in 2006. Hey, that was a long time ago. But what's going on right now is the Buckeyes need to fix some things. And when I put together my grade for this game, I thought about the things that need to fix and things that went wrong in this game. What was my grade? What needs to be fixed? Talk about quite a few things. I'll tell you more next right here on Locked On Buckeyes. BetOnline.net is your number one source for betting, football, and the start of the new basketball season. Find all of the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to betonline.net today on your computer or mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you once again for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your fine podcast. I don't always provide a grade for every Ohio State football game. Some games are easy. Got to give them an A just because they played out of their mind. They are the best team in that particular moment. That wasn't the case over the weekend. I even mentioned on the postcast, go back and check it out, give you a little nugget about what you'll hear. I discussed why Ohio State did not play like the number 2 team in the country over the weekend. It was also a weekend when the number 1 team, Tennessee, went down to Georgia. Also, it's a weekend when Notre Dame upset Clemson. Also, a weekend when we got Alabama to get another L. Mason Taylor, the son of Jason Taylor, caught the 2-point conversion. Brian Kelly said, hey, overtime, 31-30. I am going to go for 2 and win this game. We have momentum. We're in overtime. How about we ride high? We are in Death Valley. And now we all know how wild and crazy those games are. In LSU, the number 10 team, former number 10 team in the country, they're definitely about to move up, beat Alabama. Alabama loses, America wins. I am here for any time Nick Saban is on the losing side of a contest. Also, a little side note, Brian Kelly just wanted to pay back for the beatdown he got in the 2012 National Championship game. Notre Dame had no chance. We all heard about Manti Te'o and the catfishing situation. Yeah, that's a part of the storyline in that game as well. But regardless of Manti Te'o catfishing or not, Notre Dame got the beat down by the hands of Alabama. Brian Kelly, BK, wanted that payback, and he got that over the weekend. So those are things we got over the weekend. We got teams. I don't think Notre Dame was ranked, but they had an upset. We had LSU, who was the lower number 10 ranked team. Alabama was number 6. The number 10 team beat the number 6 team. The number 3 team beat the number 1 team. So you see what I'm getting at. Teams that are not the higher ranked team are finding ways to beat teams that are ranked higher than them. All of a sudden, Ohio State in this game does not play like the number 2 team in the country. And truly, they didn't play in windy conditions like a team that deserves to be in the playoff. I believe they'll be in the playoff. I want to save my thoughts about predicting what the committee is going to do and what should happen, what I think should happen in the rankings that'll come out on Tuesday evening. You'll get them. You might not like them, but you'll understand why I believe what I believe when I get there. I say all that to say this. That might have been the worst performance I've seen Ohio State play since I began hosting this podcast in 2020. Third full season covering Ohio State here for the Locked On Podcast Network. I wanted to give them a C or a C minus to be nice or generous. But that might be a D. You ain't going that bad. That's probably a D plus performance from Ohio State. Not just because of the final score. The lack of adjustments. The lack of even the defensive coaches utilizing and saying, hey, Northwestern, if they're going to keep running the ball and doing things that a 4-2-5 can't stop, how about we go to a 4-3? Jim Knowles ran a 3-3-5, just pull Jack Sawyer sometimes, put him in a 2-point stance, over in linebacker set like he was about to blitz. Hey, that wasn't the best defense for that game. A 4-3, bringing Cody Simon in would have been a whole lot better. Oh, how about this one? In passing situations, have your best pass rushing D end and best interior pass rusher, Mike Hall, JT Tuimoloau, have them in the game. D-line rotations still are confusing, don't make sense. That was game number 9. Go to the offense. Why are you still running an air raid offense and not relying on the guys in the backfield to tote the rock? Why are you still restricting CJ Stroud in the second quarter when he needs to use his legs? Why are these things being said about an Ohio State team who is the number 2 team in the country? Because they didn't play like it over the weekend. There are things that are issues with this team. Got to fix the O-line. Got to figure out how these receivers can work against guys that are going to be in their grill the entire time. Got to fix the running situation. Got to fix Stroud and not having miscommunication with the receivers. The D-line rotation, Mike calls to start. Don't know why he's not starting. If you want to save him for a pitch count for games against Michigan, Well, you might want to build up his stamina in his lungs and his wind now because you don't want him to play 50, 60 snaps against Michigan when he's only playing 20 to 30 in the previous 5 games every single game. Doesn't make sense. I'm going D+. I don't think I'm being too harsh or too nice. Your boy thinks he's just right with his analysis. We're out of here on this Monday. We'll be back tomorrow. Might have a bonus episode coming on Monday or Tuesday. Can't say what it is just yet, but it might be a special guest that you'll enjoy coming up really, really soon. You can follow me on a Monday on the Twitter at jstevens07. You can send all of your emails to jstevens317 at gmail.com. Out of here on a Monday, guys. Enjoy it. Let's hope that we are able to get over the abnormal performance the Buckeyes put up. But keep this in mind. Ohio State won the game. They're still in contention to win the Big Ten East, to win the Big Ten Championship, and to get in the playoff and to win the national championship. Ultimately, right now, sometimes it's just survive and advance. And if you're undefeated in November, after a wild week of football, you're doing something right.